Hello, thank you very much. Now we are coming to Russia. My name is Sergey Choban, and I'm at home in Berlin with my office Choban Foss in Berlin. Maybe you know Museum of Architectural Drawing, what I made in Berlin as a foundation, where you can see very nice collections and exhibitions about architectural display and architectural drawing made by hand by different architects by different times and periods. Nowadays, by the way, we have very nice exhibitions there about Mark Fisher, who was a stage designer for Pink Floyd and Rolling Stones and so on. Please come to Berlin if you have time and see it. It's really spectacular. On the other side, I'm leading the office speech, who is now an architect responsible for the Russian pavilion on the exhibition in Dubai. Maybe you know this colorful dome staying in the District of Mobility in Dubai on the Expo. So it's my Russian office. I am going with my partner Igor Chlenov, with whom we made it, this project I like to show you. So the question in Moscow, the most important question as in any town with a history, is a question about layers of town. What means? If you go through Milano, you see the houses from very different times and how these houses are going one over each other. And also here we see, for example, the house from very characterful time of Moscow of 1930s, and then we have the next block like 1960s. And the question is, by growing of height of the buildings, by growing of the density, what is in Moscow, by the way, still not so high, as you will see from the photos, how to go with the relationship between outstanding form of the buildings and like background buildings, because you cannot make, of course, from the town planning and also from the picture of the town, all buildings like outstanding formed sculptures, but you have to decide on which point you make the building like sculpture and on which point you make background buildings as a surrounding for this sculpture, what makes then some kind of ensemble. And that is the situation we enter also here. We are here now on the very important road of Moscow, that is Leningrad Road, what has connected in many years two biggest towns of Russia, Moscow and Petersburg. And along of this road, you go also today to airport Sheremetyevo as a very important direction in the city. And so far to create, even in the second line, bigger complex of the buildings was important in 2 points. First of all, to support the lines of many streets coming to this lot. By the way, it is big industrial lot, so here we are a lot of industrial buildings of 70s, also not under heritage, not really important to be saved, and also empty places as open production places. So we could organize a new town planning here, and we decided to make like a very calm architecture of apartment blocks and make a contrasting point by the block of offices, what we are speaking about. And you see, also the density of the downtown of Moscow is not so high as maybe you can imagine. I would say even not so high as now in Milano. There is a most important street connecting, as I told, Moscow and Petersburg, in this case Sheremetyevo. Here we see their palace, so a traveling palace it calls, Peter Traveling Palace, where their kings of Russia was staying by interrupting the way from Petersburg to Moscow by staying in Moscow for visit, because the main town in the time of Tsar dynasty was Petersburg. And then the whole area, what was in this time still very greening, after that, in the time of 20th century, was built step by step. And now, as we see, we have some higher point on different places in Moscow. Just very right is the Moscow city with the highest towers, but mostly is the density not so high. And the decision was to make very calm architecture of this residential block and make an opposition to a contrastful sculptural block of office building, what we are speaking about. So we see a very clear courtyard structure of apartment buildings on the left side, and we have a sculptural element of office building on the right side, what are staying in one composition but contrasting from the materiality, from the choice of materials, from the choice of details and elements. So that is the idea you see on this picture. So the facades of background buildings were made by natural stone with metal elements of windows and with ceramic elements of the left building. But as a contrast point to them is their office building, very sculptural, with this three-dimensional element facade, what makes them like a contrastful sculpture to this left staying surrounding. That is the idea on the picture. What I'm speaking about, you see quite very calm facade made by gray and slightly yellow natural stone, and made it together with some metal elements with even decoration, so to make this facade just calm from the form but deep from the detail, and connect them with very sculptural form of this most important point of composition with this sculptural building of the office. On one day I've made the book. It calls 30 to 70, where I believe to explain that you need like a 30% of significant architecture in opposition to 70% of background architecture. And the background architecture is like a ring for the diamond of iconic buildings in every town. And this building, what I'm speaking about, is takes a role as a, iconic building in this composition. The building has different height. It has something to do with also insulation rules in Russia, because you need to bring a sunlight to every flat along 2 hours or 2 rooms every 1.5 hours in the day from April to August. And it means that you cannot build this building, could not build this building in the same height, but to choose the different heights, what was helpful for us, because it got the possibility to make this building of the different heights and different cantilevers, like a sculptural element also in the form. So you see that the building moves from one side to another in the horizontal direction and also in the vertical direction. So you have not the building of the same height, but you have the dynamic composition of different heights of different building parts. And that is what you can see from the different sides. For example, by the photo right, you see how the surrounding very calm structure of apartment block with courtyard stays in the opposition to this very sculptural element, and together, I believe, they make this dynamic composition between 30% of outstanding and 70% of ring of surrounding. What was made by these three-dimensional elements of facade. In the function, it was conceived like a multi-tenant building, but nowadays it is one tenant who is staying here and coming from the courtyard from the main hall. But in fact, you have different possibilities to come from the courtyard, but also from outside in the different entrance halls. And so far, you can make it either multi-tenant or single-tenant as it works now. And on the normal floor, you have different cores what could make a function of this building as a different office spaces. But as I told already, now it is a open spaced and single space structure of one big tenant, big developer, Gulf Development Group, who has decided to work here in this building because it looks like quite significant, and they wanted to sit here. That is how the courtyard looks like before it was full with the people, how the structure makes quite interesting light, shadow, and relief composition inside of the courtyard, what was made by cantilevers step forwards and back, and by three-dimensional elements made on the base of Schuko construction by Velker Stramandinole Este Facade company who made this facade. You see from downstairs the idea of the building, that it makes two steps, one with cantilevers of parts of the building are going forward and back. On the other side, the three-dimensional elements are making the relief of every two floors, because every element is 4-floor height. Also we had an element by structure in one floor, but as a composition it was made downstairs by 4 elements, like one element. Here you see it from the dimensions, and the element was still inside of one floor, but the whole composition was consisting from some elements. How they were here connected together on the side and brought to the structure you can see there. So on the right side you can see this element facade, what is under construction, how it was under construction for, let's say, 2 years. And here are different views how by light and shadow these buildings look like, and I think it's very important to have these 2 dimensions, as a big dimension of sculptural cantilevers and smaller dimension of this like honey block elements made around of whole building. How it mirroring the light and the sky around them, and what is the most important thing, how it connects to surrounding, because I believe that the towns today are not more monolithic and monolithic designed bodies, but they're consisting from very, very different contrastful parts. They are playing to each other, they are speaking to each other, and in this speaking, the contrastful part, the iconic part, should be not the biggest one, but should be maybe the most interesting to bring nice balance and nice ensemble between the surrounding and just iconic parts, what are minority of whole town, but still very important minority. Thank you very much.